Hello, my dear friends. It's wonderful to see you here again. If you're over 60 or maybe already in your 70s, you've probably noticed how every doctor visit seems to come with another test, another scan, or another follow-up appointment. But what if I told you some of those so-called routine checkups might not actually be helping you? In fact, they could be quietly taking away your peace of mind, your energy, and even your health. Today, I want to share something that could truly change how you see medical tests after 70. So please, stay with me until the very end. And before we begin, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share this video with someone you care about. Because what we're going to discuss today is something that many seniors never get told. Yet it could make all the difference in how you live the rest of your years. You see, many people believe that more testing equals better health. It feels safe, right? You go for your annual checkups, get your scans, your blood work, your x-rays, and then wait for that comforting, everything looks fine. But the truth is, medicine is not always as simple as that. As we age, our bodies change, and so does the way we should approach healthcare. What was helpful at 50 might not be helpful at 70. Sometimes, the test itself can do more harm than the condition it's supposed to detect. I've seen it happen time and time again. Let's start with the first one, the bone density scan, or what doctors call the DEXA scan. On paper, it sounds like the perfect tool, a quick, painless scan that tells you whether your bones are strong or fragile. But here's the catch after 70. Almost everyone's bone density shows a little decline. It's as natural as getting wrinkles or gray hair. Yet many older adults panic when they see that number drop slightly. Doctors, meaning well, often prescribe medications that claim to strengthen bones. Unfortunately, these drugs can bring more trouble than the bones themselves. Let me tell you a real story. Rose, a lovely 76-year-old piano teacher, came to me one day looking exhausted. Her doctor had told her that her bones were thinning, and immediately started her on a prescription to prevent osteoporosis. Within just a few months, she began suffering from severe acid reflux and jaw pain. She couldn't eat comfortably, couldn't sleep properly, and worst of all, she couldn't play the piano anymore, something she'd loved since she was a little girl. When I met her, she said, "Doctor, I wish I'd never taken that scan." And I understood exactly what she meant. After reviewing her results, we discovered her condition wasn't actually dangerous, it was simply part of natural aging. We stopped the medication, focused on weight-bearing exercises, balanced nutrition, and added vitamin D. She started walking with light resistance bands, spent mornings stretching by the garden, and even began dancing with her grandchildren again. A year later, her balance was better, her posture improved, and her joy had returned. Sometimes, the right treatment isn't in a pill or a scan, it's in movement, sunshine, and living without fear. The lesson here? Don't let a number scare you. If you're not having fractures or falls, and you're active, sometimes your bones just need a little care, not chemicals. The best prevention after 70 is strength training, healthy eating, and self-confidence. Remember, a body in motion stays strong. But fear can make even strong bones fragile. Now, let's move to something that worries many seniors, the brain MRI. When people start forgetting small things like where they put their glasses or the name of a neighbor, they immediately fear the worst: Alzheimer's or dementia. Doctors, trying to be thorough, often order an MRI. It sounds logical, right? Let's take a look inside your brain. But here's what most people don't realize. Almost every brain over 70 looks a little different on an MRI. Tiny white spots, small shrinkage, or minor changes are common and harmless. Yet once the report mentions the words abnormal or degenerative, panic begins. Let me tell you about George, a retired engineer, 74 years old. He came to me trembling, holding his MRI report. It said, "Mild white matter changes," and he was convinced his mind was fading away. He stopped driving, stopped socializing, and even told his wife, "I'm not the same man anymore." But when I tested his memory, attention, and logic, everything was normal. What he had wasn't dementia, it was anxiety from misinterpreting a scan. We focused on improving his sleep, reducing caffeine, staying hydrated, and adding brain games to his daily routine. 3 months later, George was laughing again, volunteering at a local library, and remembering more than ever. The only thing he really needed was reassurance, not radiation. You see, our brains, like our hearts, carry the marks of life, the storms we've faced, the late nights, the laughter, the tears. MRI machines can capture those marks, but they can't measure who we truly are. If you're having severe symptoms like seizures, sudden confusion, or changes in behavior, yes, a brain scan makes sense. But for mild forgetfulness, the best medicine is often rest, mindfulness, and social connection. Many seniors don't realize that stress and loneliness are two of the biggest enemies of memory. In fact, studies show that seniors who stay socially active and sleep well perform better on memory tests than those who rely solely on medical checkups. So, before saying yes to that MRI, ask yourself, am I truly having a medical problem, or am I just human? Forgetfulness doesn't always mean illness. Sometimes it means you've lived long enough to have too much to remember. When you think about these two tests, the bone scan and the brain MRI, you start to see a pattern. Both are meant to reassure us, but often create more fear. Both are meant to protect, yet can quietly steal joy and confidence. I'm not saying you should ignore medical advice, but I am saying you should ask questions. Always ask, what happens next if this test finds something? Will it change my treatment? Is there another way to check this without the risks? That small moment of curiosity can save you from months or even years of unnecessary worry. Now, before we move to the next tests in Part 2, let's pause for a moment. Think of your health like a garden. You can't force it to grow by watering it too much or pulling at the roots every day to see if it's growing. Sometimes, all it needs is light, balance, and patience. Your health after 70 is the same. Too many tests, too much fear, and too many pills can suffocate the peace your body needs to heal naturally. Lesson for today. The greatest wisdom in health is not in doing more, but in knowing when enough is enough. At 70, your body is a masterpiece of resilience. It has carried you through decades of laughter, storms, and love. Don't let fear or over-testing make you doubt its strength. Trust it, care for it, and listen to it. You are not a collection of test results. You are living proof that life is more than numbers. And before we continue to Part 2, where I'll share 2 more common checkups that can secretly cause harm, the cardiac stress test and the colonoscopy, please take a moment to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't yet. Because what comes next might surprise you even more, when caution saves more lives than curiosity. You know, as we grow older, one of the things that quietly slips into our minds is fear. Fear that something might be wrong inside our body. It's not the wrinkles or the gray hair that trouble us. It's the uncertainty of what we can't see. And this fear often drives many seniors to seek out every possible test, every scan, every checkup that promises reassurance. But sometimes, chasing reassurance can lead us straight into harm. Let's begin with one of the most misunderstood medical tests, the cardiac stress test. The cardiac stress test. When the cure becomes a burden. The idea behind the cardiac stress test is simple. Measure how your heart performs under pressure. You walk on a treadmill or pedal a stationary bike while hooked up to wires that monitor your heartbeat. For younger adults with risk factors or chest pain, it can be a useful tool. But for seniors, especially those over 70, the picture changes. Here's why. Your heart at 70 doesn't need to prove anything. By this age, the heart muscle naturally stiffens a bit. Arteries lose some elasticity, and you might already have mild changes on your EKG, not because you're sick, but because you've lived a long, full life. Yet these normal aging changes often show up on a stress test as abnormal results. And when that happens, it sets off a domino effect. More scans, more invasive procedures, sometimes even unnecessary heart catheterizations. I once spoke with Mr. Harold, a 74-year-old retired teacher who took a stress test just to be safe. The test showed possible blockages, and within weeks he found himself on an operating table getting an angiogram. The result? No dangerous blockage at all, just a heart that had grown old gracefully. But the emotional stress and recovery from the procedure? That was very real. What the doctors don't always say clearly is that for healthy seniors with no chest pain, stress tests rarely change the outcome. The key is how you feel, not what a machine interprets. Instead of these intense cardiac evaluations, what truly matters are the basics. Regular blood pressure checks, monitoring cholesterol levels, staying physically active, even simple walking or light gardening, managing stress with good sleep and social connection. Your heart doesn't need to be tested like a machine. It needs to be cared for like an old friend. Colonoscopy, when the risk outweighs the reward. Let's move to another test many seniors dread but feel pressured to do: the colonoscopy. It's often presented as a life-saving screening to catch colon cancer early, and indeed, for middle-aged adults, it has proven benefits. But after age 70, especially 75, the balance begins to shift. Here's the truth that few talk about. The chance of finding a new, dangerous colon cancer after 75 is very low, but the chance of complications from the test itself goes up sharply. The colonoscopy isn't a simple blood draw. It involves sedation, fasting, bowel prep, and insertion of a long tube into the intestine. At younger ages, the body recovers easily, but at 70 or 80, the risks of dehydration, fainting, or even tearing the colon wall rise significantly. Take the story of Mrs. Alvarez, an 82-year-old grandmother who lived a healthy, active life. Her doctor urged her to do another colonoscopy, just in case. The procedure went well until 2 days later when she developed severe abdominal pain. It turned out there was a small tear in her colon. Surgery followed, and her recovery took months. Afterward, she told me something that stuck. I felt fine before that test. I only did it because I didn't want to disappoint my doctor. And that's the heart of the problem. Sometimes seniors do these tests out of obligation, not necessity. The U.S. Preventive Services Task Force now says routine colon cancer screening should generally stop at age 75, unless there are symptoms or specific risk factors. But many people don't hear that part. So, what's a better alternative? Non-invasive stool tests like FIT or Cologuard can detect blood or DNA markers linked to cancer risk without the trauma of a full colonoscopy. Simple, at home, and no hospital gown required. If results are clean, you can skip the tube. If not, then a colonoscopy might be justified. The bigger lesson. Knowing when to stop is wisdom, not neglect. We live in a world that glorifies doing more. More exercise, more checkups, more vitamins. But after 70, the art of aging gracefully lies in knowing what to stop. When your car has served you well for decades, you don't keep opening the engine every month. You listen to its sounds, drive gently, and maintain what truly matters. The human body deserves the same respect. Skipping unnecessary medical tests isn't about ignoring health. It's about protecting your well-being from overdiagnosis and focusing on what genuinely improves quality of life. Instead of chasing every possible illness, focus on living every possible joy: morning walks, laughter with friends, the quiet peace of a warm cup of tea. Because sometimes, the best medicine is simply knowing you are already doing enough. The truth behind full-body CT scans and the wisdom of gentle aging. We've come a long way together, haven't we? From the bone density scans that might not be worth the worry, to the colonoscopies that can sometimes do more harm than good, each of these stories carries a gentle reminder. Aging isn't a battle to win. It's a balance to maintain. Now let's talk about one of the most expensive, seductive, and misunderstood checkups out there, the full-body CT scan. The full-body CT scan, when curiosity turns into radiation. It sounds like the ultimate peace of mind, doesn't it? A machine that can look everywhere inside you head to toe and tell you if something might be wrong. It's marketed with words like, early detection saves lives, and know your body inside out. But here's the quiet truth most people never hear. For healthy seniors with no specific symptoms, a full-body CT scan is more likely to cause anxiety than to save a life. Why? Because CT scans use radiation, a lot of it. One scan can deliver the same amount of radiation as hundreds of chest X-rays. At age 70 or 80, when cells regenerate more slowly, that exposure isn't harmless. It increases the risk of mutations and long-term tissue effects, especially with repeated scans. Then comes the second trap, incidental findings. Imagine you're perfectly fine, feeling good, and you do a full-body scan just in case. The results come back showing a tiny spot on your lung or a shadow on your liver. Your doctor can't say for sure what it is, so they recommend another scan, a biopsy, maybe even surgery. Weeks later, you find out it was nothing, just a harmless calcium deposit or an old scar. But in the meantime, you lost sleep, spent thousands, and endured the fear of a diagnosis that never existed. That's what many call the cascade of care, one small test that triggers a storm of procedures. I remember Mrs. Jacobs, a lovely 78-year-old woman who joined our senior wellness group. She told us she felt perfectly healthy, but decided to get a full-body CT because her neighbor had one. The scan showed a possible nodule on her kidney. After months of repeat scans and consultations, it turned out to be a benign cyst. When I asked how she felt afterward, she smiled sadly and said, "The scan didn't save my life, but it did take away 6 months of peace." Her story touched everyone in that room, because what she lost wasn't her health, it was her calm, her freedom from fear. And that's what medicine should never take away. The value of listening to your own body. One of the most empowering lessons about growing older is realizing how much your body tells you if you only listen. It whispers through your energy levels, your sleep, your digestion, your mood. But we've been trained to trust machines more than ourselves, to believe a scan knows us better than we do. The truth is, no CT scan, MRI, or blood test can measure your happiness, your resilience, or your will to live. These are the real indicators of health after 70. That doesn't mean ignoring real symptoms, far from it. If you feel unexplained pain, sudden fatigue, or major changes in your body, always talk to your doctor. But chasing problems that don't exist? That's not prevention, that's fear disguised as care. Real preventive health is simpler, more human. Eat food that makes you feel light, not sluggish. Move your body every day, even just gentle stretching. Laugh with friends, because laughter keeps your heart young. Sleep early, forgive easily, and worry less. You see, good health at 70 or 80 isn't about doing everything, it's about doing the right things consistently. Wisdom, not worry. The new way to age gracefully. There's a saying I once heard from a retired doctor. In youth, medicine is about finding what's wrong. In old age, it's about knowing what's enough. And that's something I wish every senior could remember. You've spent decades taking care of everyone, your children, your job, your home. Now, it's time to take care of your peace of mind. You don't owe anyone constant testing or endless hospital visits. What you owe yourself is comfort, quality, and calm. Medicine should support your life, not dominate it. If a test doesn't help you feel better, live longer, or enjoy your days more, maybe it's not worth doing. So instead of chasing perfect health, chase meaningful living. Go for that morning walk with your neighbor. Start that small garden you've been thinking about. Call your old friend and laugh about the silly things you used to do. Because the real secret to longevity isn't hidden in a scan, it's right there, in the simple, joyful rhythm of everyday life. Final thoughts. Your health. Your choice. If there's one message I hope you take from this video, it's this. After 70, health isn't about testing more, it's about trusting more. Trust your instincts. Trust your experiences. And most importantly, trust that you've already made it this far for a reason your body is wiser than you think. So before you agree to any major test, ask yourself, will this test really change how I live, or will it only make me worry more? If the answer is worry, then maybe your best medicine is a deep breath and a peaceful afternoon. Thank you for being here, for caring about your health, and for letting me walk beside you through this journey of understanding. If today's message gave you a moment of calm or clarity, please share it with a friend who might need the same reminder. And don't forget to subscribe, not for the algorithms, but so we can keep learning together how to grow old gracefully, wisely, and peacefully. Until next time, take care of your heart, not through machines, but through moments of joy.